The year is 1881. You are an explorer and adventurer, seeking fame and fortune in the unexplored wilderness of Africa. You've heard tales of vast riches waiting to be discovered, of exotic lands untouched by the modern world, and of fierce warriors, whose treasures can only be obtained through cunning and might. It's the age of exploration, and colonialism is just beginning. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of The History Guy, where today we'll be discussing Colonialism Uncovered, the secrets behind the scramble for Africa. Now, if you enjoy learning about our world's amazing history, be sure to subscribe so you never miss an exciting episode. It was during this period that European powers began to take a keen interest in the continent of Africa. And over the next few decades, they would scramble to carve up this vast and largely unknown territory among themselves. But what exactly sparked this sudden interest? What were these countries hoping to gain from colonizing Africa, and how did they manage to do it so quickly? Well, the first reason is economic. At the time, Europe was undergoing a period of rapid industrialization, which created a huge demand for raw materials such as rubber, diamonds, and gold. Africa, with its vast natural resources, seemed like the perfect place to find them. In fact, the British had already established colonies in South Africa, and the Dutch have been growing crops on the Cape for years. The discovery of diamonds in South Africa in 1870 and rubber in the Congo in the late 19th century only fueled their desire to expand their empires further into the continent. The French, too, were eager to get in on the action, seeing an opportunity to boost their economy and compete with their rivals. They had already established a colony in Senegal and were looking to expand their influence westward. Then there were the Germans, who were late to the colonization game but eager to catch up. They saw Africa as the key to their future prosperity and were determined to carve out a piece of the continent for themselves. And finally, the Portuguese, who had been exploring and trading along the African coast for centuries, were also eager to claim as much of the continent as possible for their empire. Now, the second reason is political. The race to colonize Africa was also driven by political rivalries and a desire for power. As the European powers grew in strength and wealth, they began to compete with one another for global dominance. Having colonies in Africa was seen as a way to demonstrate national power and prestige. Additionally, the concept of the Monroe Doctrine, which stated that the Americas were not open to further colonization, had been established just a few decades earlier. This meant that the European powers had to look elsewhere to establish new colonies. Africa, with its vast and largely unexplored territories, seemed like the perfect place to do so. Furthermore, the desire to contain the spread of Islam also played a role in the colonization of Africa. Many European powers feared the growing influence of the Ottoman Empire and the possibility of an Islamic takeover of the region. By establishing colonies in Africa, they hoped to create a buffer zone between themselves and the Ottomans. Now, the third reason is social and humanitarian. The Europeans believed that it was their duty to bring Christianity and Western values to the rest of the world, a concept known as the white man's burden. They felt that Africans were uncivilized and in need of guidance, and that colonization was a way to help them progress. Additionally, some Europeans were motivated by a genuine desire to explore and discover new lands and cultures. For example, explorers like David Livingstone and Henry Morton Stanley were fascinated by the possibilities that Africa had to offer and were eager to venture into the unknown. Their reports of incredible discoveries fueled the imaginations of others back home and inspired them to follow in their footsteps. Finally, the competition and sense of adventure also played a role. The race to colonize Africa was seen as a test of national pride, and the explorers and adventurers who participated in it were often celebrated as heroes upon their return home. And speaking of adventurers, let us meet some of the most famous explorers and adventurers who ventured into Africa during the Scramble for Africa. David Livingstone, a Scottish missionary and explorer, is best known for his extensive travels in Africa, where he explored the interior of the continent and discovered the source of the Nile River. His explorations led to the opening of new trade routes and the establishment of British and Portuguese colonies in the region. Henry Morton Stanley, a Welsh-American journalist and explorer, is famous for his expeditions in Africa, particularly his journey to find Livingstone at the meeting point of the Congo and the Zaire rivers. He later became the governor of the Congo Free State and played a significant role in shaping the region's colonial history. Sir Samuel Baker, a British explorer and administrator, is known for his travels in search of the source of the Nile. He discovered Lake Albert, now called Lake Victoria, and played a part in the British colonization of Uganda. Sir Francis Galton, a British explorer and anthropologist, is remembered for his explorations in southern Africa and his studies of the indigenous peoples. He was also involved in the colonization of South Africa and the establishment of British rule in the region. In addition to these explorers, many missionaries, traders, soldiers, and adventurers also ventured into Africa during the Scramble for Africa. Each of them played a role in shaping the continent's colonial history and influencing the course of African history as a whole. Now let's meet some of the rulers and leaders of African nations during the Scramble for Africa. King Lobengula, the last king of the Matabele people in southern Africa, is remembered for his resistance against British colonization. His efforts to maintain the independence of his kingdom led to the Anglo-Matabele War, in which his forces were defeated and his kingdom was incorporated into British colonial rule. Shaka Zulu, the founder and first king of the Zulu kingdom in South Africa, is known for his military innovations and his leadership in resisting European colonization. His policies of conquest and expansion led to the growth of the Zulu kingdom, but ultimately resulted in its destruction during the Anglo-Zulu War. Mutisa I, the king of the Buganda people in present-day Uganda, played a significant role in the British colonization of the region. He welcomed British missionaries and administrators and established friendly relations with the British Empire, which led to the Protectorate of Uganda. Apart from these leaders, many other rulers, chiefs, and elders of African tribes and nations played a role in the events that shaped the continent during the Scramble for Africa. Some cooperated with European colonizers, while others resisted against them. Regardless, their actions and decisions had a profound impact on the course of African history. Finally, let's talk about the lasting impacts of the Scramble for Africa. First and foremost, the Scramble for Africa had a devastating impact on the African people. Millions of Africans died as a result of European colonization, either through violence or the introduction of new diseases to which they had no immunity. Their land was taken from them, and they were forced to work in mines or on plantations under harsh conditions. Moreover, European powers divided the continent without considering the ethnic or cultural boundaries, leading to the mixing of different peoples within artificial borders. This caused numerous conflicts and tensions that continue to affect the region to this day. On the other hand, colonialism brought some positive changes to Africa, such as the introduction of new technologies and infrastructure, the establishment of schools and hospitals, and the development of industries. However, these benefits were primarily enjoyed by the European colonizers and their African collaborators, while the majority of Africans continued to live in poverty and underdevelopment. In fact, the legacy of colonialism continues to affect Africa even today. Many African nations are still struggling to overcome the economic, social, and political challenges that were created during the Scramble for Africa. However, despite the difficulties they face, Africans have shown resilience and determination in the face of adversity. They have fought for independence, democracy, and human rights, and continue to work towards a better future for their continent. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the Scramble for Africa. We hope that you have learned something new and gained a deeper appreciation for the complexities of this important period in history. Remember, understanding our past can help us build a better future. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to give us a thumbs up and leave us a comment below. We would love to hear your thoughts. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an exciting episode. And be sure to check out our other videos, which bring history to life through engaging storytelling and animation. Thanks for watching. See you next time.